Day weekend of September 11th, 2015. Well, folks, last week over Labor Day, as you know, there was no show, but there was some action up in New Hampshire. As I look at my notes, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton was both there. Now, I'm going to start with Sanders, and he talked about wages. So let's take a look exactly what he said.
We brought forth an extremely millions of people are working longer hours for lower wages. It is about the fact that in my state of Vermont and here in New Hampshire, it is not uncommon for people to have to work 2 or 3 jobs to cobble together some income and some health care. And the reason for that, the reason that people are working longer hours and in some cases not making enough money to feed their kids, is that for many Americans, wages in this country are just too damn low.
Well, folks, he's absolutely right. Wages suck. Now, there shouldn't be no reason why anybody should work 2 or 3 jobs just to get a leg up on the pile, so to speak. Now, I think it's crazy to be $15 an hour, and I've talked about that before in other videos, but I think, 10 is a good start. Now, Hillary Clinton, she talked about that also a little bit, but she went in a little bit different direction. Now, we're going to watch this video, and I'm going to explain what she's trying to do.
This is not a woman's issue. This is a family issue. This is an economic issue. And we're going to fight until we finally break through the barriers to equal pay for equal work. And then we need to make it possible for women and men and young families to be able to work by having affordable quality child care, by having earned paid sick days, paid family leave, the kind of support that they need to be able to go to work and stay at work. There is no doubt that we can create more jobs, but we've got to make it easier for people who are caring for babies or caring for aging relatives to be able to take those jobs.
Well, folks, for Mrs. Clinton, she's definitely going after women in this election. As you saw in the video, what she's trying to do, get the entire woman's vote out. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, as you know, she's been sliding the polls if you've been watching political news. Now, and I say that because there was a poll came out by NBC and Morris. Now, here in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders is leading at 41% and Clinton's at 32%. Now, assuming that Biden jumps in the race, he's at 18%. And that's actually getting relatively close this early in the election cycle. Now, please note that in Iowa, Clinton still has a 38 to 27% lead over Sanders, but Biden's right there at 20%. But since I brought him up, what about Joe Biden? Well, he wasn't in New Hampshire over Labor Day weekend. He was actually semi-close to me out in Pittsburgh. And he had a really, really good speech. Now, I'm not going to show you the entire speech, but I'm going to show you parts of the speech, and I'm going to explain what he's up to.
We should eliminate those tax breaks. And by the way, this isn't just Joe Biden, pro-labor, liberal, Democrat, etc., talking like this. This is a populist, the press will say, populist Biden got up and said today, or they'll probably say, competing with Bernie Sanders, who's doing a hell of a job, by the way, with Bernie Sanders. Have nobody to stand be us and the major problem. No, not. You got to talk to my wife about that. I've got to talk to my wife about that.
Well, folks, here's the thing, Mr. Biden. He really hasn't decided he's going to run yet. Now, I've seen everything that he wasn't, still debating. But here's one thing that does pisses me off about the whole thing. What people are saying that he should have jumped in by now. And that's totally disrespectful. I mean, his son, Bo, just died here recently. Let him take his time, even though the clock is running out. Now, honestly, I actually want him to run. Now, folks, you know me as a moderate conservative, but he is the serving vice. He's actually the vice president of the United States. I couldn't figure out what to say there for a moment. Excuse me. He at least should have a right to run for a nomination. We at least owe him that. If he goes down, he goes down. But I honestly want him to run. And keep in mind, folks, I know it's still early, but it's getting ready to be primary season. And it's going to be hot and heavy. We all know that. So let's see what will happen when it comes down to that. Well, folks, I had a totally different commentary to do this weekend. I'm actually going to talk about September the 11th and the Patriots Day weekend. But something crossed over when I was in the interwebs, when I was doing my research this week's show, I want to talk about. Now, I don't know if you know what's been going on in Hungary with the Syrian refugees. Now, before I talk about this week's commentary, I want to play a video by a British volunteer, Joe Young. Here's he said what's going on there.
Clearly it's stressful. These people have come a really long way. They're understandably tense about how the state's going to deal with them. They've only got a week before Hungary changes its laws, and so they're really anxious to get on. And so many people have been left, because of the desperation, they'll put themselves into really vulnerable situations. So taxi drivers and people smugglers have ripped so many of these people off. By the time they get here, they have nothing, money-wise, many of them. So they're struggling to buy the train fare on, but people are just trying to get further north and further west for the kind of promise of the safety and security that we all take for granted.
Well, folks, I have not been following this as far as doing videos on it, because I have been following it. But I really haven't talked about it only because this situation is so fluid. There's no guarantee which way this is going to go. But stay tuned. If I have updates, I will let you know. Now, moving on with this particular commentary, you know, most people saw it, but when I saw it, I didn't think it was real. So I started doing some snooping around. Now, this happened, and if I pronounced this wrong, for my Hungarian friends, I totally apologize. This happened in Roska in southern Hungary. Now, apparently, there was a German journalist by the name of Stephen Richter captured this 15-second video of what happened here. Now, I'm going to disclose this right now. This is a Twitter video. And I don't know if this video will be taken down or anything like that, but I'm going to show it anyway because this is very important to show. So here's what happened. Now, folks, you heard me talk about journalists in the past. And here's the deal with this. We are not the story. We should never be the story unless it's the absolute last thing and we become the story by victim of circumstance. She made herself the story with that video. Now, if you've been following with the Syrian refugees, you know they're trying to get out. Why would you go out and do something like that? Now, according to NPR, the journalist that did it used to work for N1 TV and was associated with the Jobbik party there. Now, according to N1 TV, she was fired and she needed to be fired by what I just said about journalists not being a story. I mean, if anything, you should be helping them get out, not doing stuff like that. What if that person would have gotten killed? What if he gotten trampled? You know, there's a lot of variables in that, and that stuff like that pisses me off because as journalists, you've heard me say it before, we have a professional and moral obligation to our readers, listeners, and viewers. And I don't like to be vindictive against other journalists, but I honestly hope she gets blackballed worldwide. And I mean, I'm not even talking about a blogspot page over on Google. I mean, this was totally sickening. It was vile. It was disgusting. And folks, I'm keeping this clean. So I'm being very professional. But I hope that she never gets a job in journalism again. But like I said, For you journalists coming up, or you veteran journalists, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if this ever happens again, please post it, because it needs to be said, it needs to be shown, and that person needs to be outed. And that's this week's commentary. Well, folks, it's the final segment of the show. Now, you probably noticed that the audio is a little bit better this week. Well, folks, my new microphone came in as an Audio-Technica. Now, I'm still working out the bugs. I still got some static and interference, and I have no idea why. But in the coming weeks, I should have that fixed. So hopefully, you'll have the best show possible. We're going places, folks. And I'm going to announce what I want to do later on as far as the equipment, because I got the lighting, I got the microphone, and I'm going to go do some camera upgrades, so stay tuned for that. And folks, that is it for this week's show. I thank you for watching, and be careful, and always remember, fear the real.